let's get started with an introduction of the BSC staff for our agenda. And I'm reluctant to say that
Recording
Olivia
in progress.
is leaving us off to a new public sector career. So Olivia, if you can.
We wish you all the best, Olivia.
Thank you very much. It has been an absolute pleasure working at BSC and being able to work with the town of Bolton and, see this project from, all the hard work that you guys did and be able to, leverage all of that and help produce a great master plan for you. So I hope that, in the final few weeks, Jeff Bagg, who's a very seasoned planner, has a lot of familiarity with, public sector and was a town planner for a while. So he's very familiar with the nature of the work. And I have no doubt that he'll be able to, finish strong and make sure everything is all set for you guys by the end of June.
Well, thank you very much for all that you've done. It's coming together very well at this point. Where does Heather stand in all of this?
Yeah, she's managing the project more on the management BSC side. But if there's any questions or concerns after I am gone, please feel free to reach out to her. I think Jeff will be more of the point of contact, but if there's any more like administrative or contract related questions, I would direct those to her.
Maybe we should introduce ourselves to Jeff. Poor man's getting, attacked by all these people.
What's the public sector you're going to?
It'll be with the town of Reading.
Oh,
So,
as town manager?
no, it'll be a planner position with the town.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I've met Jeff in an earlier meeting with Pam. Why don't we walk through the various members of the steering committee that are on? Let me start with my, at least upper left, Mary Chumo.
Unmuting. Hello, Jeff. So I started out with the Cultural and Historical Task Group and the Transportation Task Group.
That's great. Thank you.
Penny.
I'm Penny, and I've been around with the building group.
Hey, Penny has a long history with town government.
I'm just a leftover.
Right. Well,
A tasty
I'll leave it at
leftover.
that and provide further comment. Sharon.
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon Chapella, and I'm the climate activist nudger.
That's
How's
a
that?
wonderful description, Sharon.
Okay, Brian.
Sorry, just had to unmute. Hey, nice to meet you, Jeff, and congratulations, Olivia. I'm Brian. I helped out with the finances and the municipal services task group. Nice
He's
to meet
presently a selectman too.
Great. Yeah, that's good to know.
Speaking of selectmen, Ken Troop.
Yeah, I was actually on the first master planning in 2006 as the selectman's representative. And I've been on this one as the secretary and had my fingers in finance stuff and taxation things with Brian and transportation with Mary and general editing and things of that sort.
And Ken and I are the same vintage. A good vintage, but same vintage.
Well, so is Bob if it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm not going to
Oh,
touch that one.
no. He's a baby, Ken.
Right. Mr.
I
Sir.
meant in town government, but okay.
Hi, Ed Sterling, Parks and Recreation, just stepped down as chairman. Been doing that for about 5 years and had been doing Parks and Rec for 3 years back in the early 2000s. following a stumbling event of trying to create something of a long-range plan, as we called it back then, that didn't go very far, fell short, quite literally. Anyway, we're learning.
Sasha?
Welcome, Jeff. Stasha Downey, currently on the housing group and longtime resident of Bolton, currently teach in the district here. And yeah, just really, really excited to work with this group and lived in town all my life. So I'm still learning a lot, as this group has shown me. There's still a lot to learn. So nice to see you and welcome you.
Thank you.
And Sasha has provided a great deal of input and also comment on a number of elements of housing, both with the master plan and with the housing production plan. Okay, with that, let's move on to review and approval of our last meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve.
Thank you. Where a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Okay, I guess the next item is review of the final draft of chapters 1 through 4, which came out several weeks ago. I believe there's been quite a bit of comment on them. I'll leave it to you at this point, Olivia, and Pam, to lead that conversation.
Sure. I know we had gone over it maybe a couple weeks ago, and then Pam, did we review it a second time? I did see all of the committee's comments in the Google Drive, so I, reviewed those and implemented changes as necessary. I did send Pam a full draft today of all of the sections, so all the chapters and the implementation matrix and the introduction sections with all of the, for the most part, all of the committee's comments have been considered in there. So I'm not sure if that's something that maybe the committee wants to review again before maybe providing some final changes if there's any major concerns that come up.
Yeah, I believe, Olivia, that's the one where you had the slideshow presentation at our last meeting, and you were going to incorporate it into the chapter. So we haven't seen it fully formatted with the revisions that we discussed. So
Gotcha.
I believe that's in the PDF you sent today.
Sure.
So I think the comments at this point would probably be minor, but I certainly will get them out to everyone for review.
Okay.
And I also think at this point we should distribute it to staff and other relevant boards and committees for any input and comments of things they think may be missing or they feel is incorrect in the plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be very helpful.
So Pam, you're going to take care of distribution of that, please?
Yes.
Is that just 1 through 4 or the whole thing?
No, I think well, 8 and 9 probably need a little more work before. I don't know what, I haven't had a chance to review the revised PDF, Olivia, we'll go over them and we can send out whatever we think is in good shape.
Okay. Yeah.
As we go through the meeting, we'll figure it out by the end of the meeting.
Sure. Yeah, I did provide some more attention to chapters 7 and 8. So those are in, I'd say more of a final draft shape, but I think that perspective will be helpful from local folks.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be useful to have as much consolidated into a single document as possible, even though it's, well, I mean, it's not a matter of sending it by email. You're going to have people, I assume, go in and take a look at it online. So the size of the file is not an issue. But if you can get as much of it together so people understand the broader context of the entire document, I think that's very valuable. Because I think a lot of questions came up that were resolved by the fact that the answers were in other sections of the overall plan. So to have the overall plan in one place would be very useful.
Yeah, and I just sent that out this afternoon to Pam,
Great.
so it was more last minute, so I know she hasn't really nobody's had the chance to review it yet, so that's that is done, but yeah.
And
Could you
I think
clarify-
the executive summary, as soon as we can get that out, because I think a lot of people will read that first and then dive into that particular element of the plan that in which they're most interested or affects or is important to their committee or particular department, would be very valuable. I thought it was a good summary right up for the sections that you would posted today. I think it does need, and I assume you will put together an introduction that kind of sets the stage of, what has happened in the past in a couple of paragraphs and what the purpose of this is and how the executive summary has been put together.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, but I assume it's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make sure everyone felt comfortable with the overall format and felt that one page was concise enough. And I know the committee hasn't seen that yet, but
Well, I've seen it and I'm pretty happy with the format.
okay.
It does lay it out fairly succinctly in terms of where we are and where we're going in a single page. Okay,
Olivia, Bob,
I'm
for a
sorry.
second, could you clarify whether it's 8 and 9 or 7 and 8
It is
that
7
the
and
chapters
8.
are? Okay.
Yeah, so I had
Okay.
numbered the sections and then I had labeled the introduction as chapter 1, so the
Okay.
numbering was off, but I fixed that. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Stasha, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a super quick question. I think it's super quick anyway. So there's also an existing conditions report, right?
Mhm.
Or is that okay? So if I'm hearing the organization correctly, there's an executive summary, there's an existing conditions, there's the chapters, there's going to be some kind of little introduction thing, it sounds like. When we put out to the groups, would it make sense to put out the existing conditions with that, whether it's a separate document or attached onto the end, just so, because I know there are parts in this, in the chapters that reference the existing conditions, and so if people have questions, they might be looking for that document.
Yeah, so I had attached it as an appendix to the document, so it will be, accompanying the master plan with the survey results and some other data that we felt was important. And then that introduction that Bob mentioned, that will, preface the executive summary. So that will be more of a concise document. Trying to keep each chapter to one page, just so folks can get an overhead view of everything.
Perfect. Thank you.
No, I think that's a good approach to start at a fairly high level, but allow people to understand what is in each of the chapters and then have the appropriate appendices in, a fairly high degree of detail at this point. Certainly with existing conditions, which I think people will find very interesting. Probably learn quite a bit if they actually read it.
And is that referenced in the introduction or executive summary, the existing conditions?
Yes, that is referenced
Good,
in
okay.
the
As long as
introduction.
it's referenced, because I agree with Bob. I think it's an important document and it's fine to have it as an appendix as long as people notice that it's there and what it might be. Good, okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, so I guess at this point, moving on to 5 and 7 and then 8 and 9. Where do we stand on that?
So all of the comments that were in the Google Drive have been incorporated. So I guess if there's any major concerns that you want to raise now, we can discuss that, and I can let you know if it's been addressed in the document, or if you want to review the final draft copy that I sent out today. That might provide some more clarity.
Can we comment?
When was that sent out?
I had just sent it out this afternoon to
Yeah.
Pam, so I think she'll probably send
Oh, so we don't have it yet. Okay.
No.
yeah.
All right.
Okay, so
Thought I missed
we,
something.
if it were appropriate and we felt there were significant comments, we could make those comments in the Google Drive again.
Yes, this is I did send it as a PDF just so the document, stays relatively formatted. Because I know that was an issue in the Google Drive. I can ask and see if we have a file sharing through Adobe that might allow you to view it in your browser and comment throughout the PDF version. I think that might be a better solution to having the integrity of the document get lost in Google Drive.
Yeah, that would be very useful.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think
I
we
think
get the picture.
it was great to be able to comment on the text in the Google Drive and then have to switch over to the PDF to understand the graphical context. But it would be really nice to be able to comment on a document in which you can see all of the above.
Yeah, I can troubleshoot that and
Okay.
maybe send something out tomorrow for the PDF version.
Yeah, I know that with Adobe Acrobat Pro, you can do it, but there are very few people who have that.
Yeah, I think you should be able to open it in your browser and it will let you comment.
Okay.
But that can be
Let's give it a try and make sure it works, and then
yeah.
get that distributed, Pam. If once we establish that that's a workable solution, if you can get that out with some brief instructions, that would be great.
Sure. But, yeah, if there's any major comments that people had in the back of their mind or any of the sections that you want to raise now, feel free to do so.
Well, I think as soon as we can get the whole kit and caboodle together so that we start with an introduction, an executive summary, see the various chapters and the appropriate addenda, that's going to be really useful. I think it's coming together very well, but there's nothing like looking at the whole document so that we can develop comments and perspective and context. But it's going well. Thank you very much. Jeff, good luck. Olivia's done a great job. It's been an interesting transition, but I'm sure you're up to it.
Yeah, no, thank you. And Olivia has done a really tremendous job. I have been involved somewhat. I have never met, obviously, the committee members, but I've been reviewing some of the chapters with Olivia. And I looked through the existing conditions report. So I am somewhat familiar with the project, and I wanted to give you guys a lot of credit, some kudos for the structure of your volunteer group. Seems super strong, and you guys are really committed, and that's kind of rare, actually. So I think that's really great. I didn't get to say anything about myself. I just wanted to throw this out there real quick, is that I Olivia said it, and I come from a municipal background, and I actually just joined BSC a couple months ago. But before that, I was the planning director in the city of East Hampton. It's where I still live. We live here. We own a house here, and it's great. But I was there for 6 years, overseeing the planning department and working with the planning board and some city council work. And then I did work in the town of Amherst, and so I have some familiarity with town meeting and that entire process as well. So that's what I'm bringing to BSC, is kind of that municipal specialty area. So it's really great to meet you all. And then, yeah, I think in the coming weeks, I think Bob and Pam and I and Olivia talked about this briefly, but you'll have everything that you have for the plan, and then I'm gonna come to the next meeting and we'll hash out those revisions. If we get them ahead of time, we can incorporate them, talk about them at the next meeting, and then I think that's pretty much close to the end of the work that BSC will have. So my time with you guys will be pretty short, but I am here to help button it up. So is that worth talking about a little bit, just in terms of that next step, or Bob, I wasn't sure where you were going next.
No, I think, once we get the consolidated draft together, I think we can plan where we're going from there. We do have to make a presentation to the planning board, get their comments, and hopefully at that point, they will have had time to review the overall document. And then the next step is, once we get a perspective from the planning board, then we have to make a presentation with the appropriate recommendations from the planning board to the select board. So we'll be certainly in the next month kind of formulating the process to doing that. And Pam and I will have to work on putting together the appropriate presentation, which needs to be succinct, but at the same time provide a perspective on the whole thing. All the last, 4.5 years of this process. 4.5 years and 4 planners. And finally, a consultant. Thank you. So that's where we are.
Yeah, that
So
sounds great.
we'll certainly, once we have the ability and get a chance to review the entire document, then we'll get back together very quickly on next steps with respect to Pam's distribution to departments and commissions, and where we're going with an outline of the presentation to the respective approval boards.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I think we'll probably end up having at least 1 or 2 informal conversations with you before we get back with a full-blown steering committee review of the whole thing and propose a process and timeline to do that. So it's about all I had. I do look
Is there a
forward to
time-
seeing that document. Brian?
Is there a time frame for the review that you want us to do of the completed document?
As quickly as it's up. I think it's very important at this point that once Pam identifies, Olivia puts it up, figures out how to come up with a more reasonable and effective way of commenting. And hopefully there aren't an awful lot more in the way of comments. And then Pam puts it out to the overall group very shortly thereafter. And I'm talking about a week or 2. We need to have another meeting to agree on that. And then we'll have a bit more about where we're going in terms of presentation and the final process. Pam had talked about having presentation to the planning board in August and follow on with the select board thereafter. It will not go to town meeting, which is, I guess, I see that both ways. I think it's important that we give the master plan as much visibility to the town as possible. That's a good way of doing it. But there are other ways of doing it, and one that probably doesn't result in a whole lot of town meeting conversation about special interests and elements of the master plan. So in some respects, I'm quite happy that we're not going to town meeting, but we are dealing with the boards that sponsor us.
So Bob, in terms of picking a date for next meeting, it sounds like we're actually going to hold off on that until you and Pam and Jeff circle up about what's feasible.
Yes, I think that's the best approach. I mean, we have had occasions in which we've established a meeting date on a Thursday 2 weeks from now or something like that, and then have to change it by email. So why don't we leave it as you've suggested, Brian, and we'll figure out quite quickly where we are with respect to the availability of the documentation and review. And then at a week or so after that, we'll have a meeting to finalize the whole process and hopefully have a document on which we can base our presentations and approvals.
Okay, great. I do have one suggestion if it's possible, which is that if when you get to the point where you might be throwing out some potential meeting dates, you might just create like a few options in a doodle poll, because I'm just
Yeah,
anticipating
that's a great
with the
idea.
summer vacation coming up, it might be hard to identify.
Yes,
All right, thanks.
as Bolton moves towards the east and sets up camp on the Cape. Yes, you're absolutely correct. And we're going to avoid select board meetings, right?
Right, and presumably it's June that we're talking about here?
Yes. But again, hopefully everybody's had time to review the level of detail that's been provided, and we'll be able to be expeditious about a final review. So once that stuff gets out, it'll be pretty quickly thereafter, and we'll get a doodle poll out at that point with some prospective dates. That's all I have. If there's anything else,
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
I
Oh,
would
wait.
definitely like that.
Oh, hold on a minute.
Oh,
Are we not going to talk about these chapters that we've had before us? Because I
Yeah.
actually have a
Yeah, 7
suggested
and 8.
revision on the climate one. Just only two.
Okay.
Sure.
I know, I'm going to faint it away. I only have
Well,
two.
we'll put that yes, motion in abeyance pending your comments.
Okay. All right. So if I can get us to goal C 8.4, create resilient landscapes. And I have just two suggestions.
Mhm.
One on 8.4.1, which currently says implement and encourage the use of green infrastructure and nature-based solutions on public and private property and in new development. And my suggestion is to take out the and encourage and simply put implement. I think that one of the things that we need to do in this whole section is speak more forcefully in the name of climate and a little less in the suggestion of nudging.
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I think you have to understand the limitations of implement.
Still, yeah, okay. Still, I think that if you say implement and take out the and encourage, you force that more difficult conversation and are not so satisfied with simply encouraging something that people don't have to follow.
I don't know any other. My view is you need to do both. But any other
Yeah,
comments?
the encourage part to me says, there's room to put something into the bylaws that incentivizes developers to develop in a certain way or landscape in a certain way when they get to that point. So to me, it read, yes, we're implementing it, but also we're considering next steps as to how we would encourage it as we continue on in the future. I didn't see it as something that was a weak statement. I saw it as all kind of inclusive of like, right now we're implementing it, or we're saying we want to implement it and we want to, continue to encourage it through the future. Just the way I read it.
Yeah, except it doesn't, I don't think it reads that way. If you want to say implement now and into the future, something like that. But if you say implement and encourage, then somebody can say, I'm not quite encouraged enough, or no, I don't have to, or whatever. I do think that one of the issues that we have and I think we've done actually quite a good job on this whole section of moving away from the gee, we ought to be thinking about phase on this to holy smoly, the house is on fire. We have to do something. And through the way, I mean, I'm really rather pleased with how most of the wording goes. But I mean, what you could do if you're saying implement is you could say something like seriously implement or immovably implement or something. But anyway, I'm suggesting taking out the and encourage. And then the second one, and is there more conversation on that?
I just,
Well, you just need to remember that we can't legislate private property.
yeah,
That's the problem. If some idiot wants to come in and clear cut their property, we can't stop them. And if they want to have a lawn, we can't stop that either. We can make it harder for them, and we can certainly and should encourage them to not do it and give them a lot of reasons why. But in the end, we don't have authority over private property. That's the problem. And that's why it's carefully worded, I think.
Well, I guess in addition to that, if you talk about encourage, in a number of cases, encourage, part and parcel of encouragement is incentivization. And look at our Phosphor subdivision regulations. There's a case in which, hey, you can do it one way, the old traditional way, or we will give you the opportunity to do it in a new way, but there are some limitations to doing that. So that's encouraging, that's incentivizing. It's not imposing. But if the incentivization makes sense, it generally works pretty well. And the case of Phosphor, I don't think we've had a subdivision recently that hasn't been Phosphor. So there's a case in which we encouraged and it's stuck.
Well, then how about implement and incentify
That's fine.
instead of encourage?
That's
I think it's incentify is more proactive. It's a little less gee whiz, we really would like you to, and here's how we're going to, this is the incentive we're going to offer you. I would accept that one.
That
okay.
sounds
Does
fine.
anybody else have a comment on that?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay,
Right.
so let's leave it at that.
Okay,
the next one,
and then
Sharon?
one more, 842 says create regulations that encourage biodiversity and the planting of long-term native species. And I would put in, instead of encourage, let's do incentify
That's fine.
again.
So while we're in that section, I just noticed, I think it's just misnumbered. At least my copy is, it goes from 8.4.3 to 8.4.5, just as a aside.
good catch. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
thought 844 was a hidden agenda. I'm sorry.
So that's your hidden agenda, Robert.
Oh, only if it's my hidden.
That's good.
So we're going to draw straws on whose hidden agenda gets it.
Okay, that's a good comment. Okay.
That's it. That's it. Other than that, I'm pleased with it.
Okay. Can we?
Yeah, I repeat my motion.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, not at all.
And thank you again,
Okay.
Olivia. It's
Best
been
of luck,
Olivia.
Yeah. Best of luck
thanks.
in the
It's been-
future, Olivia.
It's been good working with you.
Thank you guys very much. Yeah, it's been a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Good job.
Good luck,
Bye.
Olivia.
Take
Good
care.
job, Olivia.
Aye.
Bye.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
Right.
All right.
Hey, Ed, we have chainsaw training on Saturday morning.
Oh my God. All right. Wow.
Chainsaw training.
They're all crazy.
Is that for town meeting?
Um,
No.
Please, Sharon.
boy. All right.
Are we all done?
Yep.
Okay, farewell.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Recording stopped.